I was hospitalized due to illness, and my boyfriend was busy taking care of me. The aunt in the next bed quietly asked us when we would get married. I smiled and shook my head without saying anything. He has never known that I saw him and a girl with the note, Vicky, bound as a couple in the game. When he forgot to lock his phone and poured me water last night. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, there was the heaviest snowfall in the city. Ryan took off his scarf and wrapped it around my neck, laughing that I was like a little pig. I opened my mouth, and tears welled up in my eyes. He squatted down, held my hand, and looked up at me and asked what was wrong. I stared at his pair of eyes full of stars. I couldn't figure out why this person could cheat on me while being so gentle to me. Ryan's moments are all about me. Because I have rhinitis, he not only quit smoking himself but also doesn't let his friends smoke in front of me. Every time after a drinking party, before going home, he waits in the corridor for 10 minutes because I can't stand the smell of alcohol on him. He remembers what I like to eat and what I like to use. Even the date of my menstrual period, he calculates it more accurately than I do. Last month, when I went skiing in northeast China with my friends, he couldn't come due to work reasons and urged me to pay attention to safety for half an hour on the phone. My friend joked that he was full of me and that teacher Ryan was originally a love-struck person. But it was such a person who, in the game interface, was bound as a couple with a girl I didn't know. As of today, it has been 147 days. I want to eat crayfish, spicy crabs, and everything spicy and stimulating. Ryan coaxed me back with great effort and cooked porridge for me to drink. I sat by the dining table and watched his busy figure in the kitchen. Suddenly I asked him, "Ryan, can you take me to play the game you usually play?" For a moment, he paused, and then smiled and touched my head. "Yes, little fool. When did you start liking playing games?" I really know nothing about games. The operation interface makes me feel annoyed. More importantly, it seems that Ryan is playing with me with a small account. After losing a game, I threw my phone on the sofa. He wasn't very angry. "Play something else?" The person who is full and satisfied hugs me on the sofa. His breath brushes against my ear, and his slightly soft hair is mixed with the fragrance of freshly washed body wash. But I subconsciously pushed him away. He raised his eyebrows in surprise but still rubbed my stomach and told me to go to bed early. The next day, I went to work without waking Ryan up first. He sent me 2 text messages at noon. "Just out of the hospital, don't eat cold food. I ordered abalone millet porridge for you. Eat it obediently. Were you in a bad mood yesterday? After work, let's go watch a movie." I pressed off the phone screen and felt a stomachache. Ryan finished class on time today and came to pick me up at my unit. I followed him silently to the cinema, held by his hand. The movie was very boring. In the middle, Ryan's phone kept ringing. When the movie was halfway through, he suddenly told me that there was an urgent matter that must be dealt with. I nodded and said okay. After watching the movie, I would go home first. But he probably didn't expect that I secretly followed him out of the cinema. Fortunately, he was just walking. If he drove, I definitely couldn't catch up. The destination was also very close, just in a hospital nearby. Ryan's figure was outstanding and very conspicuous in the crowd. So when a girl rushed out of the department and hugged him tightly, I could see it very clearly. Ryan let the girl hug him, with his hands in his pockets. Neither responding nor distancing himself. I got home later than Ryan. He sat in front of the dining table and looked at me sideways. I didn't plan to explain to him. When I passed by him, he held my wrist. "Why haven't you been happy these days, huh?" He kissed me from behind my ear to my neck. But thinking of how that girl hugged him just now, I was suddenly shocked and pushed him. "Go take a shower." I was evasive, and he didn't suspect much. Before leaving, he casually rubbed my hair. "Ryan, he is quite low in vigilance against me. Look, his phone is not turned off again." This time, I checked on him. He played the game with me with his account yesterday, but it was clearly his small account. After fiddling for a while, I found that he had hidden another software on another page. The account logged in on that one is another one. The account is quite empty, with only a few people, including his brothers. At the top is a chat with a person named Vicky. When I was looking at it, Vicky just happened to send a message. My stomach hurts so much. I feel so uncomfortable. When will you break up with that woman? I scrolled back. They talked so much. So much that I feel that what they talked about in one day is more than what Ryan and I talked about in a month. A month ago, when I went skiing in northeast China with my friends, Ryan couldn't come due to work reasons and urged me to pay attention to safety for half an hour on the phone. And that day was Vicky's birthday. The two of them went to the dog cafe we had been to see the puppies. Someone took a photo of them. The girl held the puppy with a charming smile, and Ryan's gentle gaze fell on her. My hands and feet are icy cold. I also saw Ryan. Ryan sent her many messages. Ryan would act coquettishly to her and say that work is very tiring. Ryan would play games with her and joke that she is a noob. Even when a new potted plant is placed in the office, he would take a photo and show it to her. The overtime he told me about is almost all dates with that girl. Looking at it, I slowly covered my stomach and squatted down. I had an operation due to gastroenteritis. At this time, it seems to be recurring again. Even worse, I was so absorbed that I didn't even notice that the water had stopped. The sound of the bathroom door opening rang from behind me. What's wrong? Does your stomach still hurt? Do you want to go to the hospital? The man picked me up from behind. The fragrance of shower gel filled my nostrils. His warm palm pressed on my abdomen, and it seemed to relieve my pain for a moment. I lowered my eyes and stared at his phone that was just barely flipped over on the table at the critical moment. The last message I saw was, Ryan said to that girl, I have no feelings for her anymore. I like you. My mother has been keen on feeding me all kinds of food since I was a child. So I have a habit. When I'm uncomfortable, I will eat crazily. Especially during the stressful period in high school, my weight soared by more than 30 pounds. Most girls and adolescents care a lot about their images. I am no exception. But when I'm anxious, I will eat a lot. At that time, the friendship circle of girls in our class had a strange yet harmonious appearance. I was often excluded more or less by them because of my figure. Large-sized school uniforms, lagging behind in physical education classes, and skirts that I dare not wear. No one is willing to make friends with me except Ryan. I met him when I was a freshman representative giving a speech in my first year of high school. He was the male representative and I was the female representative. But compared to me who only had that one glorious moment of giving a freshman speech, he is as dazzling as the sun. Good grades, handsome looks, many friends. There are as many girls who like him as there are carps crossing the river. But coincidentally, I went to the same cram school as him. Similar grades were always compared by the teacher. Gradually, we got familiar. I know what some boys in our class say about me behind my back. They say I'm fat and that no one dares to marry me. Then there is a burst of giggling. There are all kinds of nasty words. But Ryan has never looked at me with that disgusting look. When did I start to like Ryan? Probably one night at the cram school. He sat beside me with his school bag slung over one shoulder, mixed with the summer heat. His eyebrows curved, and the young man smiled extremely cleanly. I just checked the grades. You are 1 point higher than me again. You are so amazing. Can I borrow your brain? Ryan doesn't know that when filling out the application form, I peeked at his form. I don't know how long I calculated after going back and how many wishes I secretly made. In short, he and I were admitted to the same university. At the graduation party, a girl confessed to him. The girl's family is very rich and she is also very beautiful. I sat in the crowd and silently listened to them making a fuss. At that time, I really thought Ryan would be with her, but he didn't. He politely refused her. Towards the end of the party, I was sitting alone at the innermost part of the box. Long-term solitary life has led me to not like communicating with people very much. I habitually hide myself, but he can always find me. That night, Ryan sat beside me, propped his chin, and narrowed his eyes slightly. I knew he was looking at me, but I didn't dare to look at him. After a long time, his soft and ticklish voice sounded beside me. I like you. Do you want to give it a try with me? After being together, I asked Ryan why he would like such a fat me. But he laughed beside me and then turned over and hugged me. But in my eyes, you are cute no matter what. Ryan is a very peculiar person. His sense of morality is very weak and he has many different ideas in his head. So it's not surprising that he would cheat. Later, when I was with him, I lost weight, slowly learned to dress well, and exercised my social skills in university clubs. I also began to find that I am actually quite popular. Some ignorant juniors have confessed to me. I refused. I always thought that loyalty is the top priority in a couple relationship. But obviously, Ryan doesn't think so. In the middle of the night, when I ate the last piece of cake in the refrigerator, I bit the steel fork. Sure enough, I can't change my habit of overeating. But it seems that I haven't gained weight for a long time. The number on the scale even shows signs of decreasing. I didn't pay attention to it and just took it as a benefit brought by the operation. The content of the text message I saw that night is still vivid in my mind. I let out a cold snort. Tonight, Ryan still hasn't come back. I called his cell phone. He picked up almost immediately. Where are you? I asked him. There was a strong wind on his end. I just got off work and will be home soon. Do you miss me? His voice was still a little hoarse. If I hadn't confirmed with his colleague in advance that they didn't have overtime tonight at all, I would have believed his lies. Did he make that Vicky angry last night? So even at night, he has to lie to me that he is working overtime to coax her? Ryan, let me go find you. Probably because there was something wrong with the emotion in my words. He was silent for a long time. Then, there was a little smile in his words. After reporting the place name, at the end, she also reminded me. It's cold outside. Wear more clothes and pay attention to safety. Ryan's university where he teaches is quite close to our home. You can go there on foot. There are few people on the road at night. Only when you approach the school can you see a little bit of fireworks. Ryan is waiting for me at the intersection of that night market. He has his hands in the pockets of his windbreaker. This person has always been outstanding. Now that I think about it, he is not a stable character. I rehearsed what I wanted to say several times in my mind and walked towards him, but he suddenly hugged me into his arms. Leaning down a little, he rubbed my head. What kind of frown is on your face? Are you so unhappy? Ryan, do you really know why I am unhappy? The mottled light and shadow danced above the eyes and eyebrows of the person in front of me, and the hazy smoke intertwined. Everything in my mind was completely disrupted in an instant. Is life a continuous movie? And no one knows when and how an accident will happen. When the fire was splashing everywhere, Ryan called my name. That day, I clearly remember that when I looked for him, I wanted to break up with him. That day, I clearly remember that he lied to me that he was working overtime in order to coax that girl named Vicky. Ryan said that he had long lost interest in me. When that out-of-control cargo truck was driving towards us. It was also him who subconsciously pushed me away. The spreading pool of blood pierced my eyes. I almost frantically leaned over to check his injuries. But he smiled and raised his hand to rub my head. As long as you are fine, Ryan, tell me. Is it really so hard to like only one person? Ryan's injury is more serious than I imagined. Also, with such a large pool of blood, how could he open his eyes unscathed the next morning? He was admitted to the intensive care unit and slept for 2 or 3 days in a row. During this period, I finally unlocked his mobile phone. Fingerprint unlocking is really a useful function. I can't help but look through those chat records over and over again. Every word he said to that girl and all his tenderness towards her. In the middle of the night, it is like a knife, deeply engraved on my heart. During the days when Ryan was in a coma, that girl also sent him countless messages. There is a flower shop downstairs. It's very beautiful. Teacher Ryan, do you have classes this afternoon? How about coming to watch a movie after work? Hey, why don't you reply to my message? Are you there? Ryan? What happened? I went to your school to look for you but didn't see you. Did something happen to you? Ryan. You won't not reply to my message. Ryan, I miss you so much. At night, I was lying on the hospital bed for caregivers, looking through those chat records over and over again. The girl was also sending messages over and over again to this mobile phone. Looking at it, I rushed to the toilet and vomited violently. Ryan, you are really something. That girl also loves you so much that she can't live without you. The little nurse who makes rounds every day said that my complexion was very bad. So she suggested that I have a comprehensive physical examination in the hospital by the way. When I came down with the examination report, I saw a girl in a white dress standing at the door of Ryan's ward. Strangely, sometimes people's sixth sense is really accurate. I tentatively called her name. The girl suddenly turned around. In her eyes, there seemed to be a clear spring. Vicky. There are not many places for people to talk near the hospital. But we still found a ramen restaurant. There were few customers at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. The girl propped her chin and listlessly picked at the noodles in front of her. You know that Ryan's girlfriend is me, right? I asked her, but she just shrugged. I know. But sister, in love, there is no such thing as first come, first served. Her hair fell on her white shoulders. She gave me a not-so-friendly smile. Besides, you two are not married yet. There was an obvious provocative meaning. Knowingly be a third party? You two are really a perfect match. I lowered my eyes. Somehow, my stomach felt like it was on fire. But the girl laughed. She was so confident. So confident that I knew she had all the trump cards in her hands. So sister, why don't you give Ryan to me? Or will you be hysterical? A crazy woman is so ugly. Don't do such a demeaning thing. There was a glimmer of victory in her eyes. She probably thought that she was about to succeed. Perhaps her thought is correct. The content of my examination report that I just got flashed through my mind. I stood up, lowered my eyes and said softly. Well, when Ryan wakes up, tell him. I am not his girlfriend anymore. You are. Vicky probably didn't expect me to agree so readily. Vicky's real name is Vicky. Coincidentally, when we came back, the doctor told me that Ryan woke up. The girl almost rushed out and threw herself beside his hospital bed. And Ryan, such a smart person, probably understood everything when Vicky and I appeared at the same place. Across the girl, he and I quietly looked at each other. When he looks at people, there is always an inexplicable affection. Even now, it seems that there is still only me in his eyes. Tiny lights fall into the cracks in the floor. I take a gentle breath and finish what I couldn't say to him that day. Ryan, let's break up. There was a very long silence. Sure enough, he didn't have an expression of surprise. Instead, he suddenly smiled. I should have desperately formatted my phone before the accident. Ryan is such a person. In the past, I think I would have been hysterical. I would rush over and ask him why. I would throw everything at hand at him. I would grab Vicky's hair and tear at her. But now, after saying what I had to say, I just silently turned around. Behind me, he calmly asked me. After breaking up, can we still be friends? I shook my head and pushed open the door of the ward. Ryan doesn't know that I don't have a future. On the 4th day when Ryan was hospitalized, 6 hours before he woke up and 20 minutes before meeting Vicky, I got my own examination report. I originally thought that my easy-to-lose-weight constitution had favored me, so I ate several cakes late at night and didn't gain weight. I originally thought it was a sequela of the operation that would often cause stomach pain. The nurse who said that my complexion was not good, and the crazy vomiting when going to the toilet late at night. There are no symptoms in the early stage, and only in the middle and late stages will there be more obvious abdominal pain. I could never have imagined that there is a tumor growing under the mucosa of my stomach. In the consulting room with half of the curtain slightly pulled open, I suddenly felt numbness in my hands and feet. No, doctor, are you sure there isn't? The doctor frowned. After a long while, he interrupted me. Did you come alone? I'm not scaring you. Let me just say directly, it was discovered too late. If you don't pay attention to your current situation, there may be only a few months left. Be hospitalized immediately, contact your family, and arrange for surgery or chemotherapy as soon as possible. It seemed that I had been in a daze there for too long. The doctor sighed and patted me on the shoulder. "You don't need to be too anxious. Our hospital is an expert in this regard, and there are also many successful cases." The whole morning, I was sitting on the bench in the hospital corridor. Why wasn't there a problem with my body discovered when I had the operation last time? Why is it at this time? Why is it me? Haven't I had enough troubles? Does God even want to deprive me of the right to live? The doctor asked me if I had family. In fact, my mother left a year after I graduated from college. On the side of relatives, because of coveting the old man's property, they tore their faces apart. In these years after graduation, I have been with Ryan. Ryan is right. People's enthusiasm will be exhausted, so he doesn't like me anymore. I have been with him for too long. Maybe I don't even know what love is anymore. Do I still love each other? In the long corridor of the hospital, people are hurrying by. But for me, is even the time to exist here a luxury? I haven't thought of my mother for a long time. But at this moment, her face seems to appear in front of me. Take me away, okay? I suddenly burst into loud cries in the hospital corridor. An aunt nearby couldn't bear to watch and handed me a piece of paper. She put her hand on my shoulder and gently persuaded me. "Little girl, it's okay. Don't cry. My son is 11 years old. He had a fight with me and ate several boards of thumbtacks and tried to commit suicide. Alas, I only regret now and feel that there are many things. At least I shouldn't have been impulsive at the beginning. You see, everyone in the world has their hardships. So we must cherish the people in front of us." The aunt probably thought that I was a family member of a certain patient. I clenched the report sheet in my hand. Who do I have left now? I suddenly remembered one day when Ryan and I discussed who would die first. I said I wanted to die before him. He said okay and gently touched my forehead. "I am yours. Before you die, I will always stand by your side." I walked down the hospital stairs in a daze and walked towards his ward. How ridiculous. Even at that time, even though he was cheating, I still subconsciously wanted to see if he was awake. I wanted to ask him what treatment plan I should choose. But that day, I stood at the corner of the stairs and stared at the girl in a white dress standing in front of his ward. I clearly knew. Ryan is not mine anymore. He has long since stopped wanting me. When the last leaf of autumn falls, Ryan breaks up with Vicky. This seems like an insignificant matter to him, but Vicky is a little hysterical. He lowers his eyes and blocks the person who is still constantly sending him messages. A car on the street sounds a honk. He looks up at the already bustling night market. Suddenly he remembers how he pulled up the girl beside him 2 years ago and saved her from a car accident. Come to think of it, it has been 2 years since that girl left him. Ryan has never doubted that he loves her. In fact, when he liked her, his feelings had never been so intense. So much so that after the separation, the after effect is great. Ryan was once tired of her, and later, it was also her who he couldn't forget. So, he still broke up with Vicky. He knows it's very difficult, but still wants to try to win her back. All these years, has she been doing well? Does her stomach still hurt? Does she still not eat breakfast, and is she still in the habit of stepping on the cold floor barefoot? He always thinks of her unconsciously. On every lonely night, even when watching Vicky, all he thinks about is her. He has always been a person who follows his own nature. Feeling that he still loves her, he wants to win her back. The first thing he thought of was adding her back through her mobile phone number. But the other party has never agreed. Moreover, both the avatar and the name have been changed. When they broke up, the girl blocked all his contacts. In fact, she left very resolutely. Also, he clearly remembers what he said to her that day. He asked her if they could still be friends. She shook her head. So the journey to win her back may be a bit difficult, but he doesn't think he will definitely fail. Because he clearly knows that she is an extremely soft-hearted person. To be honest, the girl, perhaps due to being from a single-parent family, she is particularly easy to control. Be a little gentle to her, and she will think you are the only one for her. Smile at her, and she will think you are a good person. There was no reply there, so he started looking for her from other places first. It seems that she has moved out of the city. And strangely, although he has a wide network of contacts, he has never heard any news about her again. Finally, he managed to add her former best friend. But that person scolded him harshly and then blocked him again. You just spend the rest of your life in regret, you scumbag. He raised his eyebrows and didn't think so. As long as he can see her again, he will have a way to win her back. He knows her so well. He knows what she likes and knows how to make her happy. Many things seem to have penetrated deep into his bones, which is why he can't forget her for so long. He doesn't believe that she will completely forget him. It was at a drinking party on Saturday. Some former high school classmates came to their school for research. After a few rounds of drinking, they inevitably talked about past events. Actually, his alcohol tolerance is not good. So at this time, he propped his forehead and listened to those people bragging boredly. But when he heard her name, he suddenly looked up. Oh, do you still remember that old classmate? It's really a pity. At such a young age. Yes, I also went to her funeral before the spring festival. It was stomach cancer, right? So pitiful. I heard that her parents are also gone. When she left, she was all alone. At a young age. Stomach cancer. Funeral. These words seem so strange that he has never heard them in his life. He suddenly stood up, and all eyes focused on him. He felt his head buzzing. Is it an illusion from drinking too much? Did he hear wrong? Is it someone with the same name? She is no longer in this world? How could it be? She has died long ago? Died a year ago? He will never see her again? He can't find her anymore? What is death? Does it mean that they will never meet again in this life? He went crazy looking for things related to her. He wanted to prove her existence. Wanted to prove that some people were lying to him, wanted to prove that everything was false. Wanted to prove that it was a joke and they were just playing with her together. But there was nothing. He found an address and a tombstone. The wind rustled, and the mountains were high and the waters were far. The old friend has passed away, when he turned around to pursue her unexpectedly. So, he didn't even have time to say sorry. Memory swept over him like a tide. At this moment, even a little insignificant emotion seemed to be magnified so much. He knelt in front of her tombstone from sunrise to sunset. But, that is annihilation. He will never seek forgiveness because there is no one to listen to him. He doesn't even have the right to know that she has left long ago. Isn't he also abandoned by her? He began to lock himself in the room and pour bottles of beer for himself. Only when alcohol numbs his brain can he seem to see her. That girl squatted in front of him, propped her chin and stroked his hair. You are really a strange person. Obviously, it was you who changed your mind at the beginning. Why are you crying like this now? Later, he degenerated. It seems that only by mixing with those disreputable people can he feel a moment of redemption. He is called out to drink every day, and his alcohol tolerance is not very good. One day, he vomited again. He rushed into the bathroom and stared at himself in the mirror. He looked at it for a long, long time. Then he punched the mirror and broke it. Blood flowed down his fist, but his palm was numbed by the shock. The person in the mirror was broken into thousands. He trembled and said, Why? Why, Ryan? Why can't you love someone well? Why did you lose her? Why did you think you could win her back no matter when? Later he found out that it's not that he doesn't love anymore. It's just that some love has penetrated deep into his bones. So it's easy to abandon, but when it's lost, it's so painful that he can't breathe. Suddenly, he picked up the glass fragments on the ground. Then, looking at the mirror, he drew a big cross on his face. Blood immediately flowed down his cheek. Even his group of fair-weather friends were frightened by him and sent him to the hospital. Someone sat beside him and bumped his shoulder. Hey, are you unhappy? Let's find some fun. He began to hang out in various bars. Even with scabs and scars on his face, he could attract a large number of beautiful women. A woman touched his cheek and said, I like your look full of stories. Later, women and alcohol almost became the main themes of his life. There were some things he tried desperately to forget but couldn't. So it would be better to do something else and not think about them. As a result, it was rumored in the circle that the women he had been with all looked very similar. Yes, some were similar in personality, and some in appearance. The crazy longing was relieved by this, but one day, it surged up like a burst dam. Everyone was like her, but none of them was her. When he saw that similar face, he suddenly felt nauseous. He rushed into the toilet and vomited until he was dizzy. When Vicky found Ryan, Ryan was locking himself at home and drinking. The man opened the door, reeking of alcohol. He looked at her from bottom to top, then clicked his tongue and was about to close the door. But she blocked it with her hand. "If I didn't look for you, how long would you continue to degenerate like this?" Vicky asked him with her arms crossed. But it had to be said that such a man, even in decadence, exuded an air of keeping strangers away. Ryan relaxed his eyebrows and sneered. "Are you endless?" "What's endless?" "Ryan. You've been with me for 2 years. How many years did you spend with that woman? You've become like this for her? Then what am I?" The man stared at her, silent quietly for a long time. After a while, his voice was full of annoyance. "Come in." Vicky could tell at a glance that the place where Ryan was living now was where he used to live with that woman. Everything was unchanged in the furnishings, except that there were beer cans lying messily on the table. "Vicky, do you know why I added you when playing games that day?" Ryan's voice was very low, like an ethereal ghost. Perhaps even she herself doesn't remember. "The nickname of the first game account I registered for her is also Vicky. That day I had a quarrel with her. Calling you Vicky is just like calling her. At that time, my enthusiasm for her had decreased. For me, you were like a brand new her. So, I found you more interesting than her." Vicky widened her eyes and listened to the man analyze his relationship with her extremely calmly. Still, she couldn't hold back. She picked up a can by her hand and threw it at him. "You're really a beast." Vicky suddenly remembered when she first saw that woman and showed off to her, saying that being hysterical was demeaning for a woman. But now she wished she could go crazy. Had she been that woman's stand-in for 3 years? Who on earth was Ryan looking at through her? His disgusting ex? Then what was she exactly? The answer to this question was already obvious. She had thought she was much better than that girl, but in the end, who laughed last? A dead person? Seeing that the woman in front of her was about to lose control of her emotions, Ryan coughed and stood up to see her out. The woman was pushed by him and walked out. Finally, the shouts and cries were blocked outside the door. He looked at his own eyes in the mirror. Today was a very important day. He didn't want anyone to disturb him. On Christmas Eve, the streets were already filled with a happy and festive atmosphere. This was probably the first time Ryan had left home in half a month. He took a bath, shaved his beard, and then dressed neatly and went out onto the street. In this month, he confessed his love to her. The night streetscape was neon lit. In the city that never sleeps, it seemed that all pedestrians were in pairs. He walked on the street with his hands in his pockets, but suddenly was bumped by someone. "Brother, this bouquet of flowers is for you. If you have someone you like, you must confess boldly." A little boy stuffed a large bouquet of flowers into his arms. It should be an activity held by the mall to select random passers-by and encourage them to confess. Ryan held the flowers in his hands and suddenly didn't know what to do. If only she were here. Then, boundless guilt swept over his heart. "Hello, can I buy the flowers in your hand?" A male voice interrupted his thoughts. It was a very energetic-looking young man with slightly curly hair, who was easy to like. "I made my girlfriend angry. I want to buy flowers to coax her. But as you know, it's hard to buy them anywhere on this festival. They must be a young couple deeply in love." Ryan handed over the flowers in a daze. He didn't want money at first, but the boy had already stuffed a red banknote into his arms. After thanking him, the boy left, but Ryan stood still. He had bought them for her before. When decorating the new home, he had also filled an entire refrigerator with roses. At that time, he seemed to love her very much. So much so that he was reluctant to do anything that would hurt her. Ryan felt that he was almost driven crazy by memories. What if he hadn't done those things? What if he hadn't been sorry to her? If he had stayed by her side all the time, would they spend the last Christmas together? Ryan felt that he seemed to have a bit of a problem with alcoholism. He found another bar and kept drinking and drinking. As a person whose alcohol tolerance couldn't be improved no matter what, he would vomit after drinking too much. But when he was drunk, it seemed as if he could see her. Just like now, a girl who looked very much like her walked past in front of him. He frantically pushed through the crowd to see her. But when he rushed onto the street, in the vast sea of people, where was the figure he was looking for? He was drunk again and had hallucinations. However, this time, he seemed to have provoked the wrong people. "Hey, you son of a bitch, don't you look where you're going?" A strong man picked him up. In fact, he had learned Sonda before, but he had been drinking for too long. He was almost picked up and thrown against the wall, and then a group of people dragged him into an alley. It was so noisy outside that no one heard the violence inside. "Do you have any money? Let us have some to spend?" That person searched all his pockets but only found a ring. And only when he saw that ring did Ryan suddenly open his eyes wide. He wanted to snatch the ring back but was picked up playfully. That ring was bought with her. It was the only thing he could find that was related to her. He couldn't get the ring and struggled. And because he cursed in a low voice a few times, several people surrounded him and beat him. They punched and kicked. Those people were just taking advantage of being drunk and acting crazy. Ryan hunched his back. Finally, after finding the ring that turned out to be made of iron and couldn't be sold for money and was then casually thrown on the ground by someone, he stuffed the ring into his arms like he was holding some precious treasure. "Hey, is he dead?" "Forget it. Let's go quickly." No one knew how long had passed. Those people finally stopped. In fact, he felt that his internal organs were all in pain. In fact, he felt that he was really about to die. But he smiled. Winter seemed a bit cold. Would he never open his eyes again if he just lay on the ground like this? No one cared what had happened in a small alley. The float parade was making a racket and there was a burst of laughter. Ryan didn't know. If he opened his eyes and looked towards the neighboring block, a boy was walking towards a girl holding the flowers he had just bought from him. The girl had the eyebrows and eyes that he was constantly thinking about. "Sister, guess where I bought this bouquet of flowers?" Ryan should be considered your ex-boyfriend, right? "Oh, he's here too. He seems to still love you. But he probably thought you were dead and seems to be living a very bad life." The girl fiddled with the petals in her arms and shrugged indifferently. "At first, my best friend wanted to play a trick on him. As a result, my group of friends joined in and lied to him together. I'm living abroad now. In the end, those people actually made a tombstone for me to prove that I'm already dead. It's really boring. I'm not dead. I'm living just fine. Originally, the doctor said it was not easy for me to survive. I was really afraid of being cursed to death by them. Forget it. No matter what Ryan thinks has nothing to do with me anyway. People should look ahead. Honestly, after getting through this illness, he doesn't seem so important to me anymore." The girl stretched and held up the bouquet of flowers in her hand. "Thank you. The flowers are really beautiful." The bell struck 12 midnight. Fine snow was falling in the night sky. The stars were shining brightly and the neon lights were colorful. The crisp ringing sound passed into the next year again. The end. The end. The end. The end. The end.